Hello again, welcome to another Ref Show. We've got Gary Megson on the panel this week alongside You Are the Ref's Keith Hackett. Now very sadly we're reminded all too often just lately of sport's proper place in the grand scheme of things, and our thoughts, sympathies, etc. go to all of those involved in the terrible terrorist atrocities in London and Manchester. Makes us all pause for thought. Just when we think football's big, it's not that big, is it? It's not that big. However, biggest club game, undoubtedly, Champions League final, which we look back on. It was a good game too. Real Madrid beating Juventus by 4-1. Did you enjoy it, Gary? Did you enjoy it?
I thought it was fantastic, and I think they couldn't have asked for anything more in a final. It was an absolute showpiece. Everybody has played the part, and there were goals in it. They had an edge to it, like the crowd, the roof, being closed. Everything made it at the start of the season, if they'd have said, what do we want in a Champions League final, that would probably have been it. It was fantastic.
Didn't expect that margin, no, did you? Didn't expect that clarity of victory for any side?
No, because you thought it'd be a bit tighter, but I think once it went to 2-1 to Real Madrid, they've then got to come out a little bit. They looked as if they were out on the feet and a little bit shell-shocked as well, Juventus. And, when you're playing against any team, a good team, and you have to come out and leave spaces, you're going to be in trouble. But when you're playing against greats, you're going to be in big trouble, which is what happened. 600
goals in a career, not bad. All the talks about Cristiano Ronaldo,
but
rightly.
Well, of course it is. Invariably, he's they've got superstars all over the pitch, but he's always the one who he turns up for big games. And I saw one of his first games when he came over to this country. I was manager of West Brom, and Alex put him in the team against Manchester United in a League Cup game. He did about 15 step-overs and never moved the ball at all. And they were calling him a show pony at the time, but he's obviously he's learned, he's got better, he's got that experience, and now he's one of two absolute greats in the game.
You don't want a show pony in charge of a game either, do you? And we didn't get one. There's not a lot of conversation about Felix Brych, the German referee. That's all to be good, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. I thought he had a super game. It wasn't an easy game. There was, it got a bit feisty at times, but he managed the players really well. He allowed the game to breathe. He had the confidence. He wasn't arrogant. Talked to the players. Allowed, if you like, the odd challenge to go, taking a risk, but a risk that paid off because it added to the flow of the game. His recognition of foul challenges, the difference between careless and reckless, was absolutely spot on.
Well, 7 yellow cards there were. I think you approved of most of them. There was, unfortunately, a red card for 2 yellows. And this is Juan Cuadrado of Juve was sent off. There was a villain in this piece, and it wasn't the player who got dismissed, was it, Gary?
No, Ramos should be thoroughly ashamed of himself, because it didn't spoil the game because of the minute the incident happened. But it's, I feel, in a way, sorry for the lad that's been sent off, because it's ruined his, experience of the biggest game in Europe. And Ramos throwing himself to the ground in that manner was, shocking. And it would have been nice if it could have happened, and I'm not blaming anybody other than him, if he'd have been the one sent off for throwing himself over, because it was really, really sad for him to do that.
Why does a player have to do that?
I don't know, because you'd think, I know the game's changed, but when I was a kid and you're like 15, 16, one of the things the older people used to, don't show him you're hurt. For him, as he's a big lad, he's a strong lad, he likes to tackle himself, and he's not afraid of going through 1 or 2 himself, and then throws himself over. Now, you couldn't justify it even if it had happened in the first 5 minutes. But the game's won, it's over, and all he will be remembered for, not the game, but him, is that he got somebody sent off with a few minutes to go, and it didn't ruin the game. It didn't cause any difference to the actual result. It just leaves a sad taste that somebody of that quality would do that.
It's a pity we're talking about it, really, and talking about him rather than the Juventus overhead kick for one of the goals.
Yeah.
But how did that was the only blot on the official's performance, wasn't it? The sending off.
Yeah, and I don't blame the referee in any way, shape, or form. I think his assistant referee was right on top of it. Yeah. There was an overreaction.
Yeah.
You could see the flag going really heavily, which is a signal to the referee something really is amiss here, and you've got to take action. And I think he left the the referee no, if you like, escape route to be able to manage that situation, to threaten or whatever the player. And therefore it was a second yellow. And it was sad because, it had been a great game. And this is, if you like, something that is tarnishing the modern game. Players who are prepared to cheat, even though they're winning, the game's won at that particular point, he's still prepared to cheat. And I think it does leave a bit of a sour taste to those that are watching the game.
I mean, he knows that it's going to be seen, from any of numerous angles and in slow motion, exactly what he's done. To get so is he not embarrassed? How will he, when he looks back at that, will he not be embarrassed or not?
It's not the first time, is it? I think he's just got it in his DNA. Look, he desperately wants to win, but everybody does. But from the first minute, I can't remember, an incident happened with Carvajal, the right back, and it was just really innocuous. Like there was a coming together of the outside left and Carvajal. He is like running up to the referee, trying to get something to happen to the Juventus player to give him an advantage for 88 minutes, which is wrong anyway. But then to do it with a few minutes left, and for us to be sat here talking about that as part of the game isn't right.
No, it's not. Well, we can talk in positive terms about the referees for both the major domestic competition finals, not only the Champions League with Felix Brych, but the Slovenian Damir Skomina was in charge of the Europa League final. We're going back a little bit here, but we didn't, I don't think, talk about it in any detail on last week's ref show. First of all, Manchester United winning 2-0 was a thoroughly professional performance, wasn't it?
It was, and it was. I think it showed Mourinho at his best, because he's, he'd managed that game maybe a month before it came because he was getting criticised for not playing certain players in league games, but he put all his eggs in one basket. They have to get through by winning that competition. And fair play to him, they actually did it. But I thought Ajax played a game of football and hoped they win it. He did whatever it took, to get them to make sure they won it. He's playing Fellaini, and he doesn't seem to get criticised for playing long ball stuff. But United were whacking a lot of balls up there. There's nothing wrong with that because it happens, and everybody's always quick to criticise. That's not the way to play football. Well, if it's such an effective thing and people can't stop it, why don't you do it? Which is what United do, and then they win competitions.
Pace on the break.
Well, it should be down to Ajax to be able to sort it out. But he knows they've got an issue, and he plays Fellaini, and they can't get anywhere near him.
Praise from the ginger Mourinho there, for the manager of Manchester United.
I mean, the referee on that particular game also had a really top-class performance. So we've seen, really, in the two finals in Europe, referees really well prepared, briefed clearly well, fit, selected for the big games. And again, Kalina demonstrating that he knows his referees. They've got a pathway there that says we've got succession planning. They prepared Clattenburg really well. Clattenburg has already said that Kalina played a major part in his performance the previous year. Pays dividends. Good coaching. Mark
Clattenburg, of course, now newly acquired, is a director of You Are the Ref's Academy site. Nobody better to learn from as a role model. And indeed, if you're a young referee, why on earth? And if you're not a member of that site, if you're not subscribed to it, why on earth haven't you? Because there's so much expertise. There's Keith, your colleague Mark Halsey, Roger Dilks, you name it, they're all on it, dispensing advice. In part two of the Ref Show, we'll look at crackdowns. Do they still really exist? Because we hear about them before the start of a new season, and then very quickly they get forgotten. And we're wondering about mass confrontation and dissent. At the beginning of the last season, there was a rush of yellow cards, wasn't there? What's happened to those, Keith? What's happened to them? They've just disappeared. And we'll talk about, now then, I get asked quite regularly about goalkeepers hanging onto the ball. How long can they hold onto the ball for? Well, you hardly get a goalkeeper penalised for this now, so I've had to look up how many seconds they can hold it. Just rejoin us for part two. We'll see you then.
Delighted to have you on board.